Hey, welcome back to the podcast, the Evil Dungeon Master Universe Podcast. I'm your host, Vince. Hopefully, you're having a good Friday. The weekend is upon us. Hopefully, you're off. You're going to be gaming. I'm going to be gaming because we'll have our Unisystem Shadowrun game tomorrow on Saturday with my players. It's a fun little time. You can listen to that on my YouTube channel or find it on uh, Spotify or Apple Podcasts by going to rollhigherdie.com or just look up Roll Higher Die. You'll see the actual podcast play there. Anyway, today I wanted to talk a little bit about vision and movement and just clarify some things. And just I was reading the player's handbook today looking for something interesting to talk about. Oh, yeah, that's right. Ask the DM at theevildm.com is my email address. Theevildm.com is my website. Sign up for the newsletter, yada, yada, yada. Support me, buymeacoffee.com/theevildm. Now the commercials are over. We're going to look at page 102, and we're going to talk a little bit about what's there on page 102. And we're going to start at the top right under light, because I thought it was important to start here as we're going to talk a little bit about vision and everything like that. Now, the important part about this light part is it talks about how much of illumination radius you have when it comes to a torch and a lantern and a bullseye lantern, a bullseye lanthorn, which is pretty standard, and it tells you how long it does. But I want to point out that a lot of people forget that magical daggers, short swords, and long swords do have illumination as well. It's not that big of a distance in 10-foot radius for a dagger, 15 for a short sword, and 20 for a magical long sword. And it is infinite. Now, you can, as a DM, say that there is no illumination for the sword in your campaign, but generally, magical weapons are supposed to have a glow of some sort in darkness and at night. So that's how it was. And a lot of people forget about that rule. And I used to like doing things like short swords and long swords having different types of illumination, like depending on what magical powers it had and what it did. It could be a blue light, it could be a red light, it could be a green. I just had fun just having different types of glowing swords. I thought it made all the individual weapons individual, so everybody had something different. One book that helped me out with a lot of those things came out around the second edition time when they made the Diablo books for second edition, right before third edition. There was a bunch of that had random charts for making really random magic items that were kind of useless, but some of them had some interesting little things like light sources and stuff like that on it, so you can mimic the game and stuff. It's a pretty simple book to find online, or if you want to buy it, it's usually pretty cheap. But it's got a really huge magical random generator in there, so if you want to check it out, check it out. Now, Infravision was what we used to use when it came to AD&D and seeing in the dark. Dark vision and stuff like that didn't come until later, which a lot of people say dark vision ruined the game for them. I get it. But infravision is what they had. Infravision is the ability to see in the infrared spectrum. This heat radiation becomes visible, and differences in temperature allow infrared sight. Warming things are bright, cooling things are gray, and very cold things are just black. Most infravision extends to about 60 feet distance. Dungeon-dwelling monsters have infravision for about 120 feet. All infravision is spoiled if a light source is shedding illumination upon the creature possessing the infrared sight capacity. Similarly, great heat will spoil the capacity too and the capability. Thieves hiding in shadows are successful with respect to infravision only if there is a heat light source nearby to mask their body heat, or a very cold object radiating or providing similar cover. So that is something that I would always put into play, that when the party is walking around and you have that human in there that can't see in the dark too well, he has a torch or a big lantern going, the elf or whatever is not able to see anything infrared spectrum or infravision spectrum because the torch is kind of blotting it out. So I would always say that unfortunately you can't. Now, if the elf goes to the extended range of where the light is and is in front and looking, sure, he could see down the hall or down the whatever path that they're on. if there's something out there. But I've always ruled that if he's in the party with the person with the torch, that kind of screws up the vision, and this kind of supports that whole situation there as well. Now, there is ultravision, which a lot of people forget about, is the ability to see radiation in the ultraviolet spectrum. Gamma rays, X-rays, etc. Creatures with this ability can see in normal nighttime darkness, that is. They see at night as well as a human can see at dusk because of the continual bombardment of ultraviolet radiation upon the Earth. So this is where they kind of got the idea of dark vision from ultravision. But I don't remember of many creatures having ultravision. I think vampires have it, I believe. I could be wrong on that. But I've always said that vampires can see in the dark no matter what kind of light there is, because they're nocturnal creatures and they should be able to do that. But it's interesting that generally people forget about ultravision. And I've had a couple players, when we were playing games over the years, actually ask for ultravision as a special ability. And I never understood why exactly, other than the fact that they wanted to be able to see at night because of the because of the ultraviolet radiation upon the on the Earth. So sometimes I would just be like, yeah, it's fine. I mean, I understand why you want that, but remember that if you're in an area with a torch or something like that, it's still not going to provide you that vision that you want. If you're in complete darkness or ahead of the party scouting, absolutely. That was the only restrictions that I put upon ultravision, and most of the players were fine with that. So, get the ability to see at night. So, So silent movement is another one I wanted to talk about as we're moving along on this page here. Characters typically make a certain amount of noise and thus alert opponents of their presence, but thieves, as well as characters able to move quietly because of magical devices such as boots of elven kind, have a chance to be absolutely silent when moving. This chance to be absolutely silent is given by percentage with plus or minus modifiers, and the character must roll the percentile dice to score less than or equal to the percentage chance he or she has to move without making a sound. Success indicates silent movement and an improved chance to surprise an opponent or slip past it. Now, this is reason why I'm reading this is because a lot of people believe that the numbers for a thief on his chart is what the numbers are, and that's it. No, that's not necessarily true because there are other factors to always put into play. Maybe you're sneaking with a party that's really loud, or maybe you're picking a lock and it's really dark, or it's raining outside, so you're having a hard time climbing that wall. Things like that. Also, sneaking in the rain will cover up almost all of your noise if it's a heavy rainfall. Generally, you can walk just about normal pace and no one's really going to hear you. Even if someone has chainmail on, it's going to be difficult to hear that chainmail at a distance. So this is where the plus minus modifiers come into play, and the DM can modify your score. He doesn't even have to tell you. You just roll, and he'll tell you if you succeed. You're the player. All the player would say would, "I rolled a 32 and I had a 40 on my sneak, or move silently." Excuse me, my move silently, and then the DM would decide, okay, and tell him the situation from there. That's how I've always handled it. I've always given plus or minuses when it comes to the situation because it's never going to be a flat score like that. That makes it boring. Finally, invisible movement. I'm only reading this because it's part of the page here for movement, and I thought it was interesting that by various magical means, it is possible to become invisible and move about. Invisibility bestowed by a cloak of elven kind extends to what it covers. A ring or a spell of invisibility offers superior invisibility. Note that none mask light, so the invisible character cannot move about with a light source and be unseen, for the light will be noticed even though its bearer and possibly its source or not. So you could be a ghost. You could haunt somebody with this because you'd have a floating lantern or a floating torch heading over down the hallway if you really need to see. So I believe when it comes to invisible movement, there is no way to really make a sound. And this is how I've ruled it in my campaigns, is that When it comes to invisibility, it masks just about everything from the character. Now, once you attack, you obviously automatically become visible. But I've allowed players who are dressed in heavier armor and stuff like that, if they move slow enough, they would be masked. If they ran, obviously that would make a lot of noise. But I've ruled that invisibility does cover up um, sound. You may rule it different in your campaign and may think that's stupid how I'm doing it, and that's fine because this is my campaign and I'll do what I want in my campaign. That's the good thing about these books. It's up to the dungeon master's interpretation. And sometimes you extend things and sometimes you don't. It really depends on the situation. Anyway, tell me what you think as usual in the comments, either by going to Spotify, commenting there. I appreciate those that have been commenting there, or you can comment on YouTube right under the video, or you can comment on my website under the post. Lots of people do it there as well. Once you sign up for Substack, or actually, you can reply directly from the email I found out, and it'll put a comment right on the post on Substack for my website. So either one. So you sign up for the website, you can comment right there, and also like the posts. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Keep original, keep it old school. Good night, God bless, and keep those AD&D fires lit. Good night.